I'm sitting at In-N-Out and I have my passport on the table right next to my burger and fries, not because I was traveling somewhere, but because I didn't feel safe without it. This is the sad reality of living in the US right now. So I was at In-N-Out with Stefan, my mom, and my sister who's visiting from Germany. Just us doing something together, having lunch together. And this felt like it was something special because my sister isn't here often. But even in this moment, where it should have felt like we're enjoying ourselves, we're having lunch together and a conversation before my sister goes back to Germany, but there was like no peace at this moment. But instead, we were all just quietly uneasy. Because the truth is, we don't feel safe. And I could speak for many Americans right now that we don't feel safe, not even while eating a fucking burger on a sunny afternoon in California. And this blue passport, which I had sitting next to me at In-N-Out, it was a shield, a symbol, a hope that maybe, just maybe, it would protect me or my family if anything were to happen. Because these days, at least I feel like you never know who's watching. You don't know who's walking past you, past your table. And in the back of my mind, there was one terrifying thought which I couldn't shake. What if they take my mom? She's 83, she's diabetic, she has high blood pressure. She wouldn't survive a day in custody. And the worst part, I don't think they would even care, because we're now living in a country where some of these so-called agents aren't following anything close to the law, where ICE has hired bounty hunters, where being brown or looking like you just might be undocumented is enough to be a target. They don't ask questions, they just take, because there's profit in it. And I hate to say this, but we as humans have succumbed so far into this greediness of making money that each of us now has a price tag. And the proof is here in the USA right this second. So yeah, I brought my passport to In-N-Out because I no longer trust that being an American is enough.
Yeah. And lost my livelihood and my peaceful protest.
Hi, my name is Jay Sean Sadler. I'm out here because I'm scared.
My name is Kimberly. I'm 27.
Just about a month ago, Stefan and I flew back from being in Switzerland and in Germany. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel. We live half here in Germany and the other half here in the USA. And this time when we came back, for the first time in a long time, we both had this shared feeling that we both wanted to stay here longer. There's something about being in this country, it's very hard to explain, to anyone that has never been here. It's kind of like the energy, this openness. It's kind of like a rhythm. It's very different than being in really any other place that I've been to. To me, this feels like home because this is where I grew up. We wanted to stay here through the summer and maybe even longer because usually by this time we're gone back to Germany. When you grow up somewhere, it just automatically just feels like home. Sometimes you have a love and hate relationship with it, but deep down in your heart, you just feel like this is home. But now, just a few weeks later, that feeling is slipping away. There's this tension in the air, which is hard to name, but it's even harder to ignore. And it's not about headlines or even about specific events. It's about how quickly the place that you trusted so much can start to feel unpredictable. How something that felt so solid can suddenly feel fragile and broken. Now, I'm a US citizen, I'm documented, supposedly protected. If I'm feeling this anxious, this uncertain, I can't help but wonder constantly these days, what must it feel like to be undocumented or to have a family member who is undocumented, to constantly live in fear of being watched, followed, taken just for existing. And if this is what fear feels like living inside the system, I can't imagine what the weight of this fear is living outside of the system as an undocumented immigrant. And that's what's so unsettling right now. This isn't about just having a bad week or bad couple of weeks. It feels like something has shifted in the foundation. And we're all quietly bracing for what comes next. So lately I've noticed something. Even on the days where nothing bad is happening, when the headlines are quiet, the sky is clear, when everything should feel normal, there's still this weight in the air. This constant feeling of bracing, like we're all quietly waiting for the next disruption, for the next piece of bad news, for the next thing to explain, for the next thing to defend, to survive. And it shows up in ways we don't even realize. It's in the way people drive on the streets. It's a little faster, it's a little more reactive, and how short temper we've all become, and how often we check our phones, not out of boredom, but out of fear. I see this in strangers, and I feel it in myself, that tightening in the chest, that hyper awareness when I walk into a store, just even grocery shopping, or see someone in a uniform out of the corner of my eye. And we weren't meant to live like this. We weren't meant to carry so much stress every single day. The stress that we feel when we go out to lunch with our families and having this need to carry a passport to go get lunch. And the scary part is how fast and how quickly we've adapted to this. It's almost like it's a new normal. Like we've convinced ourselves it's fine, even when everything in our nervous system is telling us it's not fine, it's not okay. And the longer we live in this state of bracing, the harder it becomes to connect, to trust, to exhale. Because when fear becomes our baseline, you forget what safety feels like. So my sister leaves tomorrow back to her life in Germany, and I can't help but keep thinking about that. She's flying to a country where none of this bullshit is happening. None of this tension, none of this fear, none of this chaos. Part of me wants to follow her back to this beautiful, slower paced, calmer, more grounded version of life. A life where I don't need to carry my passport to get lunch, where I don't feel the constant need to scan the room, to explain myself or to brace. But then there's this other part of me, the louder part of me, that doesn't want to leave, especially now, because as much as this place has changed and as unsettling it's become, this is still my home, and I don't want to abandon my home. And that's what makes it so difficult right now. Because when the country that you love no longer feels stable, when you're questioning your future in the only place you've ever truly felt at home, you automatically start looking for escape routes, not just physically, but emotionally. And I've had moments where I've thought maybe I should just tune it all out. Stop reading the headlines, stop watching stuff on social media. It's exhausting to care this much all the time, to stay present, to stay awake. Tuning it out would be easier. It would feel quieter. That's not the kind of person that I want to be. If everyone tuned out, we would be in worse position that we are. It doesn't protect anyone. It just makes it easier for the wrong things to keep happening over and over again. Last weekend was a proof that Americans do not want to live on autopilot. They don't want to become numb to injustice or feel disconnected from what it means to be human. And that day that we had the protests, not just America, but the entire world came together and spoke loudly. That gave me immense hope for this country. And it gave me hope for humanity because it proved that we're choosing to stay present. People showing up, listening, people checking on each other, people staying awake, even when it's easier not to be. And sometimes the most human thing we can do is simply refuse to look away. To anyone watching from the USA, if you're feeling anything like what I've described, that quiet fear, that uncertainty, that heaviness that you can't really explain, I just want you to know that you are not alone. Even as a US citizen, someone in theory, should feel protected. But the truth is, this moment is shaking a lot of us, not just politically, but emotionally and mentally in ways that we can't even put into words. And I think talking about it matters because that is honesty. Because once we talk about it, it doesn't feel so isolating anymore. Because staying awake, even when it's uncomfortable, is how we protect each other. And maybe that's what being an American really is.